Hello and welcome to Court Watch with Jason Kotowski. I'm Jose Franco. In this program, we're going to take a look at some of the cases making their way through the Kern County court system. And along with this, we're going to take a look at some of these cases that are getting readers' attention on KGT.com. Now, let's bring in Jason Kotowski right now and go over some of these cases. And hello, Jason. Welcome back.
Hello.
It looks like we're back here. We've been gone for a while, and we've been missed.
Yes, it's been a few weeks, but it's good to be back.
It's nice to be back to kind of catch up. And what I wanted to do in this program today, Jason, was again catch up on some of these cases that have gone on since we've last met here, and get people caught up on what's going on in some of these cases again that have caught readers' attention on KGT.com and on 17 News on television. So let's start with a case. Deadly stabbing on Pioneer Drive in January. So let's take a look at this one. So I want to start with that one. This case involves a mother and two brothers being charged in this deadly stabbing on Pioneer Drive. Happened on January 20th in the 3100 block of Pioneer Drive, where a man was found with serious injury after an apparent drug deal gone wrong. Jason, you found documents related to this case, and what do those documents say in this case?
Well, they say that police were called early that morning to a report of a man down. They arrived to find Jason Raymond Mena lying outside, just outside the front door of this home on Pioneer Drive, where Michelle Ballantyne lives. She's 62. She lives there with her two adult sons, Larry Chavez, who's 42, and Matthew Chavez, who's 34. Now, when police arrived, the Chavez brothers aren't there. They just talked to Michelle. She says that they left about an hour before she heard a ruckus coming from outside and went to investigate and saw Jason Mena just lying there, obviously hurt, decided to call 911. Mena's taken away. He's later pronounced dead at Kern Medical. Police continue to investigate. And one of the things when they speak with Michelle, she tells them first, it's the first story is that hey, my sons weren't home. They weren't here for about an hour even before this happened. Then she says, well, they were here, but they were in the living room and playing games on their phones. And then she goes back and forth and just says that she has a medical condition and gets confused about times. So police thinks that's a little strange. They're hoping to get more investigation into this, and they hear from a tipster who says, hey, I talked to Larry Chavez shortly after this happened. He came over and spilled the beans, told me the whole story about what happened here. And he said that Larry Chavez and Mena were selling Starbucks gift cards. They were going to pool money to buy drugs together. This was basically a drug deal gone bad. Mena thought that he got the short end of the deal after they purchased the drugs, and so there was an altercation. This is all according to court documents. Mm-hmm. There's an altercation just outside the Pioneer Drive home. Now, during that altercation between Larry and Mena, Matthew Chavez allegedly steps in with a knife, stabs Mena, and then the brothers take off. That's what the tipster tells them. Tipster also says you'll find Mena's cell phone in a field. One of them took the cell phone and hid it in a field.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of just jump in here because one of the things that stood out to me for this was, and I like how you started your story that's on KGT.com about a mother or parents will do just about anything for their kids.
That's right.
Taking them to soccer practice, buying the essentials and sometimes lying for them. But in this case, something that you probably shouldn't be doing, lying to investigators, lying to police, right?
Right.
You were going to mention the charges, right? The Ballantyne is charged with in this case?
Yes, she's charged with, it's Matthew Chavez facing obviously the most serious one. He's facing first-degree murder charge. He's who they believe is the actual stabber. Larry Chavez and Michelle Ballantyne are both facing accessory charges, meaning that accessory after the fact, meaning that they lied to police. When Larry Chavez was questioned, he said, we heard an altercation and went to the front door and Mena's injured there, and I've never seen him before. I don't know who this guy is. Well, when they recover Mena's cell phone, they find messages on it, apparently from Larry, and about the making a drug purchase, meeting him later that night, and surveillance footage. They also retrieved surveillance footage showing the two of them at multiple locations the night before the stabbing. So him saying that he didn't know him, and I'm not sure if it was Larry or Matthew. I don't even know if they know for sure who put his cell phone in that field, but that's concealing evidence. And in a case like this, obviously it's a very serious case. Someone died. And if you lie to police about about these circumstances, you can face this charge. You can face the accessory charge.
Yeah, and it's possible, like we don't know we can't say what would have happened, but likely if they cooperated, right? Did they cooperate? They provide the information to help figure this thing out. The brother and Ballantine wouldn't be facing any type of charge. They would just be they would just be telling the truth. They wouldn't be facing such a serious charge in this. That's
certainly a possibility. And as the tipster told them, he said, the way I took the story was that Matthew Chavez was defending his brother. An argument could be made that, hey, this was, if he believed, and I don't believe there's any indication though that Mena was armed, but if he believed Mena was about to seriously harm or kill his brother, he acted in self-defense. Now, again, Mena, I don't believe, had a weapon on him. There's nothing in the reports, at least, that say that. But if Larry Chavez had said, this is what happened, there's an altercation, a stabbing occurred, the mom says the same thing, I hear the noise and I see my son's there and he's there with blood, it's likely they're not charged with anything and they just look at Matthew Chavez instead.
Right, and just coming down to old detective work, right? Going, tying loose ends, figuring out the story if they fits, right?
Absolutely.
And then finding that phone was also important.
Finding that phone was important, and it matched up with what the tipster told them. Hey, it's going to be in this field, and they found it in a location where they were told it was going to be. Getting that phone, looking at the messages on it, saying, oh, hey, it appears that this is Larry contacting him. Obtaining that surveillance video, just good old detective work from a nearby Starbucks, and they knew it was Starbucks gift cards that they were selling to get this money. So a nearby Starbucks, and also some other businesses that apparently captured both Larry Chavez and Jason Mena together. So and showing that Mena wasn't being truthful when he said, I've never seen this guy before, I don't know who he is.
Okay.
Excuse me, Larry Chavez wasn't being truthful when he said that.
Gotcha. I want to make sure that we have that right here. Okay.
Yes.
So, and then the next thing in this case is they are all three of them are due back on May the 7th, right?
Yes. Yep,
okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's move on to another case here that we want to that has another update since we last spoke here. A notorious case, and then from the 1980s, involving a deputy that was convicted of killing a woman and a young girl at the time, right? Who David Keith Rogers, right? I want to just read here. Notorious crime, Kern County from 1980s. David Keith Rogers, now penalty phase retrial is scheduled for August. Rogers is a former Kern County Sheriff's deputy. He was convicted in 1988 for the killing of a 20-year-old woman and a 15-year-old, and he had picked them up for sex. And this case has been winding for a long time. Jason, you've been in court, following this for years at this point, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What's been the delay here? What are the twists and turns in this case that it's already been convicted? He's found guilty.
Yes.
And he's in jail. What is the thing that's going on in this case?
Yes, no one is arguing that David Keith Rogers did not commit these murders. He absolutely committed these murders. What is being argued is whether he should receive death or life without parole. Now, he was initially sentenced to death back in the 1980s, but I believe it was 2019, the California Supreme Court overturned that death penalty because it was determined that a prosecution witness during the penalty phase of the trial lied that Rogers had sexually assaulted her. And so since her testimony was used in part to determine whether he should get death or life without parole, the California Supreme Court said this false testimony played a role in that determination, so we can't sentence this. We can't have him continue sentenced to death. This has to be revisited if the DA's office wants to revisit it. They decided they did. They said, we want him to get the death penalty, not life without parole. So there was one penalty phase retrial already in which the jurors couldn't reach a decision. So now it's the second one coming up and in this August, if it holds to that schedule. But there have been multiple delays in this case, so it's always possible it could be delayed even further.
Are those delays about evidence? Are they about attorney schedules being in the way?
Some of it is attorney schedules. Another thing is, at the last hearing, the defense attorney was still waiting to obtain some medical records regarding Mr. Rogers. And now he's appeared in court the past 2 times with a neck brace on. I don't know for what reason. I don't know if there was an assault. I don't know if he fell. I don't know what his medical circumstances are. That has not been said in court. But he's been in there in a neck brace, and his attorney wants to get his medical records before they proceed.
And they want those medical records to be part of what's ultimately decided for him, death penalty or life in prison?
That's my understanding. This will come in. Maybe an argument would be made. Listen, he's frail. He's 78 at this point. He's a frail old man. He's not the person he was when these crimes occurred. life without parole is good enough in a case like this.
Right. And then I just wanted to ask about, what's, I don't want to say not the point of this, but why are the prosecutors here in Kern County going after this case like this, trying to ensure that he gets a death penalty? Like we know, even though here in California, there's a moratorium on that. There's no one's getting actually sent to death in these convictions. The
last person the state executed, it occurred in 2006. And since then, Governor first Jerry Brown and now Gavin Newsom they declared a moratorium on the death penalty. And before that, there were issues with the drug mixes that they were using. Is it cruel and unusual punishment? But Gavin Newsom has said that as long as he's governor, there's going to be a moratorium on the death penalty. Now, the DA's office, we've questioned them about this before regarding other death penalty cases, and the response is always that in cases such as this, which are the most heinous, I mean, the killing of a teenager who was pregnant at the time and a woman.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say that cases that are this heinous, they deserve the harshest punishment. And so they say it sends a message, even if he's not going to be put to death. It sends a message that he has been sentenced to death because this is among the worst of the worst. And I think part of it too is laws change all the time. And who knows, under a new administration, if Governor Newsom decides to seek another office, maybe the death penalty comes back.
Yeah, and based on what Governor Newsom's been doing recently, maybe there's room that he changes his mind on this.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly. So there's always that possibility too. So, but when we've questioned him in the past, when even when Governor Newsom first declared the moratorium, it's always been said that we want the harshest punishment for crimes like this. These crimes are just the worst of the worst, so they deserve this harshest punishment.
Okay, and then when again? This is in August. Is the next phase.
In August, yes. There's a status conference in June to make sure that things are proceeding as scheduled, and in part to make sure that the defense attorney has received those medical records. But they want this trial to go forward in August and start doing jury selection and get this going again.
I got you. Okay, so August. That's the next thing. Next date for that.
Yep.
Next one here is Riddhi Patel. Now this is a case that got a lot of attention immediately. This is related to the ongoing war between Gaza and Israel, and there were local protesters here that have been vocal about their want for the city council to pass a resolution condemning that and calling for a ceasefire. But Riddhi Patel, during one city council meeting, she took time during a public comment period where she spoke out. She said some things, Jason, and got her in trouble. Tell us what happened. What's the most recent development in this trial here?
Well, when she got up, she went up to this podium multiple times and said things that were certainly not nice. I mean, things.
Yeah.
One of them was along the lines of, "If Jesus was here, he'd kill you himself."
Yes.
And using profanities, but again, that's not against the law. You're allowed to use profanities. What happened is that prosecutors say she went too far. She made a specific death threat against the city council.
And I just want to make sure that we say it.
Sure.
We don't have the tape for it, but she does say, what we heard and what was on the tape that you can hear her say, we'll see you at your house and we'll murder you.
Yes.
Right? That's what she said.
That's what got her in trouble.
They got her taken away in handcuffs right in the middle of the meeting, and it got her arrested.
In fact, you can see City Attorney Ginny Gennaro almost immediately after she says it, she turns and whispers something to Mayor Karen Go, and BPD gets involved, because that is a direct threat against someone. You're saying you can't threaten to kill people, you can't threaten serious harm to people, and it certainly was not said in a joking manner. It was said very seriously.
Yeah, in my recollection of that, we were watching it just kind of see what was going to happen during that meeting, and what I remember listening to it in that part was that there was a group of people that were saying the things that they wanted to say, in that time open to the public and taking comments to the council, and she was saying several things that were heated, maybe controversial, but she was very passionate about what she was saying, and it almost felt like when she said that people kind of glossed over it, like it wasn't, they didn't know what they had been saying, like you were saying. Ginny Gennaro pointed out that's a threat.
Yes.
And she pointed out to the council and to the calling for officers to say, take her into custody, right? That's at least a strange situation that happened right in front of us from here, and it turns out also to millions of people that story went across the country, right? Many other news
that got a lot
news
of
sites.
attention.
It got a lot of attention, right? And I just wanted to talk about, and you mentioned for this the specificity of what she said, right? That's what the problem is here. other than, because a lot of people say all sorts of different things in the supervisors meetings, council meetings, right? It's the specificity here that got her in the most trouble for this?
It's the specificity here. I mean, even if she said something like, I'm so angry right now, I feel like I could kill somebody. I mean, just posing it like that.
Like
I'm not even sure. Yeah, like a random thing. She said specifically, I mean, and then the video's there, we'll see you at your house, we'll murder you. And what has been brought up in one of the hearings too, the prosecutor said, she has shown up at council members' houses before. So she knows at least where some of them live. So there's the belief that she could possibly carry out this crime. Now, in interviews with some of the council people, some were a little worked up, a little shook up. Others said they didn't think it was a serious threat, but the DA is taking it as a serious threat, and there's a special charge, PC 76, specifically for threatening, not just the average person, but a public official. That's even more serious. If you threaten a judge or a prosecutor, the mayor, any public official, you can be charged with PC 76, and there's stiffer penalties with that.
And the delays in this case, what are those about? What's been going on?
It took a while. First to have the preliminary hearing, that took a while to get to. The current one, I was not at the latest hearing. We had 17 News reporter Sang-Min Kim cover that, and I don't believe it was specifically stated as to why the delay. I'm not sure if it was or not, but it has been postponed again for a few months.
So I believe the next hearing is August 1st.
That's correct.
Right? Okay, so of course we'll follow that story in August, but again, want to take this show to catch up people on what the latest hot stories that we've had here on 17 News and KGT.com. Finally here, the final case that I did want to catch up on here is this pretty recent case, a tragedy where two people were killed in an alleged DUI accident or collision, DUI collision in the Southwest. Deadly DUI case, crash on Stockdale Highway and Coffee Road in the early morning hours of March 16th. Driver, Annabelle Correa, is accused of crashing into another vehicle at that intersection at high speeds. And Correa is charged with DUI and 2 counts of second-degree murder. The couple that died are Max and Desiree Mooney. And this case, a tragedy, of course, and many, this is one of these cases that has gotten so much attention in recent weeks, and the trial, I don't want to say this a stall, but just, again, part of how these cases proceed through our system, there's going to be delays in the next hearing, in the next phases of this.
Correct. In cases like this, and I would have been surprised if it had gone forward so quickly. It would have been unusually quick, especially considering it's a murder case. And one of the things defense likes to do in cases like this, they like to test the blood on their own too, send it to their own labs, see if they can determine whether her blood was rising or going down. And it has to be noted, her blood alcohol content was just over the limit. 0.08 is the limit in California. She was 0.088. So there could be an argument, by the time she was tested, her blood it was lower at the time of the crash than it was when she was tested. There could be an argument for that, depending on what the defense's tests turn up. So it would have been very surprising if it had gone forward. They want to do their own blood testing in cases like this. They want to have their own crash site examiner go over it, see what they can find out, if there's something wrong with the roadway, if there's something else other than impairment that could have caused this.
And in that, right, the defense attorneys are looking for any kind of mistake that investigators have made?
Yes. Yeah,
right.
any mistake, anything that's been overlooked by investigators, anything, possibly on the part of there's been nothing that's come forward yet at this point that the rideshare driver did anything wrong. The couple was taking a rideshare car home. They'd been out for some drinks, but did the right thing, called a rideshare vehicle, and were on their way home when they were hit. But they could look for something too to see if what that person's driving pattern was like. Could it have contributed to this crash?
And they may be subpoenaing the rideshare company for those kinds of driving records.
I'm sure they are.
Right.
I'm sure they are.
And again, one thing I wanted to ask you about this, it was an unusual start to this where there was a problem with the attorneys, where attorneys did not show up at a hearing?
Yes, it was. It was unusual. At her arraignment, she was there and she was in a boot. There was a boot on her foot. She was injured in the crash. Couldn't stand up, or was told she could sit down because she was using crutches. But she said she was very tearful and said, when asked if she had an attorney, she said, yes, my father hired one. And they asked the room and no one was there. And public defender said, we can take it. Judge said, let's wait 20 minutes. They waited 20 minutes. No attorney showed up. She said she didn't know the attorney's name, just that her father had hired somebody. After 20 minutes, the judge said, listen, we have to do the arraignment. We'll have the public defender's office arraign you, but if you later get private counsel, you can go ahead with private counsel. Yeah. So they went forward with the arraignment, and since then, the attorney by the last name Brar has taken over the case and was at her second hearing and is now involved in it.
I got you. And then the next step in this is another hearing?
Yes, they haven't even had their preliminary hearing yet, so they're going to be looking over all the evidence, and at the preliminary hearing, the judge will listen to that evidence and decides if there's enough for the case to proceed or if the charges should be dismissed. So we'll see, for the preliminary hearing, we'll see what the prosecution puts on. Typically, the defense does not present anything unless there's something unusually compelling. But we'll see at that point if there's enough for her to be held on these second-degree murder charges.
I see. Okay, and she's facing 2 of those on the count of the couple dying in this case.
Yes, that's correct. That's with second-degree murder. That's a 15-year to life term if convicted.
Now, do you know? Well, you're not the prosecutor, but would they be seeking consecutive, or how does that work? She wouldn't be serving them together, but she would be serving them back to back, so it'd be double the time.
Well, you know, it's interesting in that we had a case a few years ago. I believe the name was Vincent Morioki, who also, it was a double fatal DUI crash. He was convicted, and if I remember correctly, it was served, it was consecutive. They did do the 30 to life. I've seen other cases where it's, well, you know, it was one incident, they died at the same time, so it's concurrent. You had the 15 to life. Now, she doesn't have any prior DUIs. Morioki did. So that also plays a part too. But I believe it would be 15 to life. I don't know if more than that is being sought.
I see. Okay. But also in this case, I would imagine that the district attorney is looking to send a message. This is a horrific incident, right? That
yes.
They're trying to send a message in how they prosecute this case.
Yes. I mean, it's a young couple. We've learned a little bit about their background. A young couple returning to Bakersfield from, I believe it was San Diego, to start a family. And we're just out together that night, having some drinks, and again, did the right thing by taking the rideshare home. And on the other side, you have Annabelle Correa, who, according to the documents, told police that a cousin of hers died from a drunken driver in 2022. So showing that she knows drinking and driving is dangerous. And she made a comment to police, along the lines of when people drink and drive, people die. That probably played a role in the second-degree murder charges against her, because she is displaying knowledge that, yes, I know this was dangerous and I did it anyway. I drank and did it anyway. She didn't say that she was impaired. She said, I only had one twisted tea. Then she said something along the lines of, you mean I'm never going to see my kid again because I had one or two drinks? So I don't know how many drinks she actually had. I don't know if it was 1, 2, what it was. But yeah, she gave knowledge, at least, that she did know that this was dangerous. To drink and drive is dangerous.
I got you. Okay. Well, thank you, Jason, for that. Now, that'll wrap it up for this edition of Court Watch. So that wraps it up here. Be sure to stay up to date on these cases and many others on kgt.com. Thank you for watching.